Welcome on in, everybody. Happy Sunday to all of you Dbacks fans. We appreciate you guys tuning on in here for another episode of Dbacks Dispatch with the trio, Gabe, Brandon, and myself, Brett, as we are here to discuss a series recap over against the Colorado Rockies. Before we kind of dive in onto all that and then some other news that I know a lot of us have been kind of talking about in some communities, whether it's our Discord, on Twitter, on Reddit, and all that. We want to welcome you guys in here again. If this is your first time in here on the YouTube live chat, welcome in. We appreciate all you guys in the live chat. If you are listening to us after the fact, we appreciate you guys as well. And then same to all you guys over on the Apple and Spotify part of the show. We appreciate you guys as well. If you guys could like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, or rate us on whatever podcast platform you are listening to us on, we would appreciate that. Make sure you guys follow us on all of our socials, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok as well. And while you're on Twitter, if you have not already done so, click the pinned tweet, join our Discord, or if you don't have Twitter, in the description below on YouTube, we'll also have the link to join our Discord. Again, it's absolutely free. And then make sure you guys also go over to the azsnakepit.com. Tons of great written content, especially our man Josh does a lot of like recap articles on here, which is pretty cool. We got one of our articles on Yahoo Sports, which is pretty crazy. So again, make sure you guys go over and see all those on the Snake Pit first before they're on any other site, because there's a lot of great other writers on there, not just Josh doing his recap articles, but a lot of like in-depth dives, kind of reviews and player analysis and all that stuff. But like I said, usually this is the part of the show where we kind of go into the series recap, game by game scores, highlight some performances, maybe some not as hopeful performances, but there was some news that kind of broke after, I believe, game one on Thursday, and an article put out by Nick Pecoro, which I'll kind of start it here. He is getting way too much hate online than he really truly deserves, if I'm being completely honest. But he did put out an article about Ketel Marte, basically saying that quote, for the past month, teammates and others in the organization have quietly grumbled about his propensity to ask for days off. They are frustrated by the time off he requested following the burglary of his home, with some believing his departure on the All-Star break set in motion the collapse that led to the Diamondbacks trade deadline sell-off. There's a lot more in that article. Kind of like too much for me to recap the entire thing on here. But basically, there's some players, and just maybe not just players, but some voices in the D-backs organization, whether they're on the field or on the field voices or out the field voices, that were reportedly frustrated with Ketel Marte. And then even today, Bob Nightingale, some call him Boob Nightingale, put out a tweet that said, or another article as well, kind of on the matter, saying the worst kept secret in the Arizona Diamondbacks organization is out. They will listen to offers on all-star second baseman Ketel Marte this winter, knowing that while Marte is extremely talented, he can be a diva in the clubhouse, agitating his teammates and coaching staff. But then it was also a little bit interesting because even today, Francis Romero, who's a pretty respected reporter for a lot of, I'd say, like Latino baseball players and whatnot, he went on to say in his tweets, quote, Ketel Marte hasn't had any issues with teammates in Arizona or anything like that. The D-backs also aren't planning to listen to trade offers at this time, per a source. Then went on to say in a different tweet, or replying to that tweet, Ketel's agent, Charity Dash, I don't know if I got the name right, potentially in there, but told me regarding these rumors, none of that has happened. It's all false. Goes on to say they should move forward and cease spreading false rumors, said Dash from the Movement Baseball Agency. So like I said, this has been kind of the talk of the town. Ketel Marte did miss the first few games back from the All-Star break, and then I believe even Torey Lovullo confirmed afterwards that it wasn't anything that was necessarily discussed with the team. It was kind of thrown on them and was, I would say, a random, just kind of, I think they expected him to be back, and he was like, hey, I'm not coming back from the DR yet, because he was in the Dominican Republic after the All-Star break and took an extra few days off right there. And I can see how, maybe it's not the best optics and whatnot, but for me personally, I'll kind of get my thoughts, because this is going to be a big rant session for a lot of us here, so I'll try to keep mine brief, because I know I've been, kind of talking a little bit here to open the show, but kind of digesting all this news, I will agree, yes, maybe not the best optics. Maybe you should inform your team a day or two prior, again, just like any other job, if you're going to take some time off. But again, I get call-outs happen too. Baseball's a little bit different. But for people, whether it's in the organization or fan base, to immediately jump to, he's soft, he needs to be traded, he's a clubhouse cancer, I'm going to be a very blunt, fucking stupid. He's an MVP caliber, all-star second baseman. I second or about to be second best player in Dbacks history of all time. Like I really don't care. Like yes, maybe again, not the best optics. Maybe he should, uh, maybe address it. If not, I still don't think that it's worthy of trading him. Because especially we've had a lot of players like Lourdes Gurriel Jr. on his Instagram put out a post that's basically saying I love playing with you, and I know there's a lot of other guys. Even today, there's a clip going kind of viral online of Geraldo Perdomo interrupted Torey Lovullo's manager's press conference and was very vocal about Ketel Marte defending him, knowing that like he's like a team leader with the rest of the team. And I don't think that in any way, shape, or form, Ketel Marte deserves to be traded. I don't think he's a cancer, especially hearing what his agent is saying about how all this is false. And kind of going back to what I said about Nick Piccolo, deserves a little bit or hasn't doesn't deserve necessarily this amount of hate that he's getting. I would agree that maybe the timing isn't necessarily the best timing to put this article out. I do at least think, and after reading over the article, I think it's very unbiased. He's just kind of reporting, what he's hearing. For me, the way I kind of read it is he's hearing this and going, "Wow, like this is kind of crazy that this is even a discussion with some of these guys in the organization." I'm gonna put this out there just because I feel like there might be some other fans that also agree that wow, this is kind of a crazy take. Um, and then my final point here before I kind of pass it on to Gabe and Brandon, there's been a lot of discussion on like who this might be, who it could be, whether a former player, because I believe they also mentioned in the article about some of the frustration stemming back to the final week of the 2024 season, where he asked for a day off amid them fighting for their potential playoff lives, and then also the All Star break here. So it could be a former player like that might not be here anymore. Maybe it's Christian Walker. Highly doubt that. Maybe it's Merrill Kelly, who I know he's had some injury issues and whatnot. So maybe he's like a little bit guffed that like, oh hey, like if I could be out there without these injuries, I would be, and you're just taking days off randomly. I don't know. For me personally, who knows? Maybe this gets us to in the future we're never allowed to cover this team. I don't care. I think it's Ken Kendrick. Ken Kendrick in the past has been very vocal about Justin Upton and his thoughts on him, called him an enigma. He was very vocal about Steven Drew. He said that Steven Drew was prioritizing his upcoming free agency and not focusing on his recovery. Motherfucker, his ankle did a 180. I want you to try to recover as fast as you possibly can. Like that's
I've
not
seen you say this 3 times the last 2 days.
exactly. It's ridiculous. Like he's very vocal about Justin Upton, Steven Drew, and then one guy as of lately that again I think deserved the people weren't as upset about was Jordan Montgomery. He was very vocal about the Jordan Montgomery contract being a terrible contract, how that was a terrible decision. So I wouldn't put it past him to necessarily kind of put out these thoughts to be like, hey, you know what? I want to burn this bridge. So the player asked for a trade, and then my hands are clean. I'm not the one that traded him. He asked for the trade. Like I personally think that a lot of this is coming from either a disgruntled former player, but my most money would be on Ken Kendrick himself, kind of making these thoughts out there because again, it's anonymous. Where I feel like if it was an actual player, Nick Pecora, I feel like he would have no issue, maybe naming. He would just say like former players, but the fact that it's like organizational beliefs as well, like I don't know. My personal opinion that this is just kind of like Ken Kendrick. He got the stadium deal with the county, so the tax money is kind of going back to the stadium. Doesn't have to worry about that. He knows that next year they're not going to be as competitive. I believe he even said that they're going to be shedding payroll. What's the biggest way to shed payroll? Trading away your MVP caliber baseball player who's making multiple millions of dollars. And the best way to, kind of save face with the fan base is make it seem like you had no issue or you had no say in it and that this is all the player doing it because, you're burning a bridge. But like I said, that's kind of my whole thoughts on the situation. We'll probably go back and forth ranting on it here, but I want to let the other two gentlemen here and also you guys in the chat will kind of get to some of what you guys are saying too. But Gabe, after what we've seen for these last like 3 days, there's been a lot of news coming out, a lot of different takes, a lot of different viewpoints. What do you have to say about this whole situation with Ketel Marte and a former player slash organization? What they have to say, and then trade, rumors coming up in the upcoming offseason.
So in terms of talking about the worst kept secret, I'm like, this is the first time I've ever heard about Ketel being a diva. The only thing I've ever heard really about Ketel was just when guys like Goldie got traded, where he became an all-star. Torrey himself said that he wanted him to take over, be a leader in the clubhouse, but Ketel was reluctant, just was kind of like no, which is understandable to me. I'm like, I know a lot of people who are great at their jobs, but they're not leaders. Just they just don't feel that sort of way. They're not that tied to rally the troops and everything like that. And I don't think he should, like, just because someone's the best player doesn't mean he should be, the leader of the crew. I mean, look at Goldie. Nobody judges Goldie for not being that. He was never the vocal leader. He was never leading the team. Everything everyone would say about him was like, yeah, he keeps himself quiet. He puts his game on the field, and that's how he shows leadership. Cattell doesn't do it, and suddenly everyone wants a vocal leader. I'm like, what's the difference between Goldie and Cattell at that point? I mean, I can think of a couple physical differences between them that makes people, judge them differently. But for the most part, that's the only thing I ever heard. Just maybe they wanted him to take on the leadership role. He wasn't ready. He didn't want it at the time because he did just get traded from the Mariners. He was young. Why would you? I mean, some guys have that personality, some guys don't. Like, look at Perdomo. The second he was on the field, he was ready to lead this team. And the only thing with Perdomo was just that he wasn't very good when he first came up. So it was understandable why he wasn't able to take on that leadership position. Before him, David Peralta, he tried to take on that leadership role on this team, and it worked for the most part. He was a fan favorite. He was very front facing for the organization. Um, but he wasn't the best guy in the team, and that's just the way it happens. It's not always the best guy in the team that takes on that leadership role. It's the guys in the background, um, who just the fans fall in love with and want to succeed. Justin Upton was never the leader. Usually, it was always guys like even Tony Clark or Eric Burns. Like, there's certain guys who were more front facing, and that's fine. Like, I don't need Cattell to be, the number one guy on this team, except he just happens to be the best shortstop best second baseman in the league. That's his. Like I say, for like a better term, that's his cross to bear. If he wants to be a leader or not, just it's up to him. That's not up to us to put that on to him. If he wants to be the best, he can be the best. Um, so that's all we knew, and that's all we had ever heard about Cattell and his personality. Just a quiet, reserved guy, like Greinke. Look at Greinke. Scott's bringing up, he doesn't want to sit with the clubhouse. Greinke was sitting in the stands. Why isn't he getting judged? Why is he? Oh, well, just he's quirky. That's just the way he is. Why can't Cattell do the same? Like, they're both equal in terms of their stature, like how good they are. It's not like, obviously Greinke had more years, but that's all we had known. But I just want to examine the timeline quickly about how all this came out. Early on this season, he signed a 6-year extension. You don't give out extension to guys who have personality problems. You give them out to guys who are going to be there every single day, who are going to do their job, and who are going to give you as much as they can, a large majority of the time. And in this case, they up payroll right away. This team showed that they weren't ready to compete for a multitude of reasons. And then the House bill passed, and a little while later, we have the All Star break, which is when both Derek Hall and Mike Hazen, both of them went on the radio in 98.7. Both of them just declared this team a seller on that same Tuesday of the All Star break. That's how early they declared this team a seller. They declared them a seller 2.5 weeks before the deadline. So if anybody wants to blame Cattell and the way he played or didn't play, this team was already going to be a seller. They could have done whatever they could have. Cattell could have been on the team. This team was still going to trade. That's just the way things were going to work. It wasn't until after the Cardinal series where Hazen changed his tune a little bit, but not even. Like, it clearly demoralized this team to have, your GM come out and say, "Yeah, we're going to sell guys off." And we saw, like, coming out of the break, Gino was struggling, Naylor was struggling, like all these guys were struggling because they knew what their GM had said and their president of whatever, Derek Hall, had said, that they didn't believe in these guys and they were going to trade them. So then that comes out, and then I remember at the time I made up the point that I was frustrated about Shelby getting traded because I was like, well, he only got traded for money. Like, I don't like the fact that Ken Kendrick is going to pocket that money. And I don't know if it was you, Brett, or Brandon, just mentioned, like, and it was in the people's tweets, like, AZ Media tweets were saying, like, oh, well, they're going to use that money to reinvest. Then a couple of weeks later, they just straight up said, yeah, they're just shedding payroll at this point for the next season. So I'm like, yeah, they're pocketing the money. That's what I expected all along. So then it started to make sense when the deadline happened that they said that they're listening to offers on Cattell. And I know, Brandon, you said, like, in quotes, listening, like, yeah, they're not taking it seriously. But at the time I said, like, just the fact that they're listening at all is a red flag to me. Like, it should be the second you hear Ketel Marte, boom, hang up the phone, call again when you have somebody else. And they didn't. And so once they did that, it started to set off alarm bells for me. And I'm like, Well, they want to shed payroll. Who's one of the highest paid guys on this team for the next few seasons? Ketel. And with how tight-lipped this organization is, with its injuries or anything else, and with the fact that AZ Media is just straight up owned by these teams, like look at the Suns. There's no bad news about Matt Ishbia. They all just jerk Ishbia off, even though he's one of the catalysts for their downfall. But instead, they blame everybody else. They go after Kevin Durant. They go after Bradley. I mean, Bradley Beal. He was in street clothes this whole time, but again, he's injured. I mean, what can you do? But Kevin Durant, they go after Kevin Durant because that's just who they want the AC media to go after. Like, this is one of those things that we've seen time and time and again. It's just they start leaking these little stories, and it's not coming from teammates. It's coming from the front offices. It's coming from ownership that start leaking these stories to the press to draw up publicity, and then suddenly, guys are gone or being traded or whatever happens because, again, they're all afraid of losing their access. Everybody in the sports media. That's when Nick Picaro took out that article right away. The people who are defending him are the people who have access to the team. They don't want to stir up anything because they're going to lose access. So that's why Torrey doesn't get any hardball questions when he gets up there in the podium. That's why he's allowed to say that he gives his mom the lineup, over spaghetti and meatballs or whatever to choose. That's why he can say that crap and nobody gives him pushback because the AZ media is scared of getting real answers and real actual stories from these guys. So if there's a story like this coming out and it's coming out now, it's for a reason. It's because they want to shed payroll, whether it's Ken Kendrick, whoever else is in charge there. They want Ketel gone, and this is the way to get him gone. It's just sort of stirring this crap up and then expecting, when the time comes and they trade him, so then the fan base isn't like, oh, they trade him out of nowhere. They'll be like, oh no, look, our hands are tied. He was a clubhouse cancer. We had to trade him for Seth Beer and Corbin Martin and Josh Rojas type of players. Like, when I see this, like I said, like nothing comes out from this organization unless they want it to come out, and it's for a reason. So as soon as I saw this trade stuff, I called it a few days ago. I'm like, they're gonna look to trade him, and yeah, then Boob Nightingale tweeted it out, and I saw some other tweets about it. And so it's frustrating to me, but it's also like just straight up disgusting. Like, why are you throwing this guy under the bus when you have a manager who hasn't won anything this last few years, and he's been at the helm for the last 9 years. He's been to the playoffs twice. So with the same thing with the GM. What are you guys doing? So like, you'd rather get rid of the player instead of getting rid of a GM and a manager that's been ineffectual for the most part.
Yeah, even in one of the discords, I'm because I've been in like our Discord, some of the other Discords, kind of like saying some of the same stuff, but it trading Ketel Marte sets this franchise back by years, and it's like that Family Guy meme where it's like an all-star MVP caliber player is an all-star MVP caliber player, but the prospects we trade him for could be anything, even an all-star MVP caliber player. Like, team-friendly deal should be the number one or number two D-back of all time after April next year. Like, there's no sense in trading him unless like Gabe said, like I was mentioning about Ken Kendrick wanting to trade him. And even again, my son is just turned 3 months old, and he's even over here. He's got some. He's even been saying crazy things about Ken Kendrick, huh, buddy. And now, of course, he's already spoke his mind over here, but he's on the side, kind of echoing along with everything you're saying, Gabe. Again, he can't speak yet, but he's over here like agreeing this is stupid. This is all just the team doing what Arizona sports media does, trying to, again, like, even there's multiple. I think Landon in our Discord was even bringing up a tweet that somebody replied to Mr. Arizona Sports with, like, at the All-Star break, there's so many fans, there's so many players that were like, yeah, Ketel Marte deserves to be in the All-Star game because not only is he a great player, but he's like a fantastic teammate. Where I don't think that, again, maybe it's a disgruntled former player, but again, I still don't think that while it can be frustrating, again, the days off, Lovello not knowing where Ketel Marte is and all that, yes, I agree it's frustrating, but there's certain players that deserve a little bit of an extra leash when it comes to, like, I don't care if it's the word is coddled. Yes, some of these players, like, if they need to be coddled a little bit because they're MVP caliber players and this good, yes, they deserve it. But again, that's my 2 cents. But Brandon, it is now your turn, my friend. With all this that's been going on the last few days, that kind of has really killed this team's mojo. Which again, we'll dive into the actual series and whatnot here. because again, it was a very disappointing series in Colorado. But I think that this news coming out really derailed a lot of the momentum they had coming out of a series win against Texas and starting off the series. What are your thoughts on this whole scenario? Whether it's the thoughts on the timing that the original article from Nick Pecora was released, whether it's some of the rumors and whatnot about like what was actually said about Ketel Marte, and then even some of the newest news that we got from today, whether it's Boob Nightingale or his agents.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I've been thinking about this the last few days. Like, all the info in the article is so vague. Like, it's, players and people in the organization. Like, it's very vague. Like, again, I know Nick, as a journalist, his job is to report, but you also need to report what's right. And I just, it's either like kind of Gabe said, it's Ken Kendrick, it's Derek Hall, or I'm putting my conspiracy hat on, it's Christian Walker, it's Josh Naylor. Could it be Gino? Like, could they all be a little bit mad that, or still bitter about how last season ended, where Ketel did take a day off there in a very important series? Everyone is also, and it just adds fuel to the fire for the hating Tory crowd, saying this is all Tory's fault if Tory wasn't so soft. But I'm like, he knows how to get the best out of Ketel. He knows how to coach him. He knows how to manage him. He knows what works. Coddling doesn't work for Jerry. That's why he's super hard on Perdomo, because he knows that's how Jerry gets better, is he's hard on him. Like, it's probably the hardest player on the team that he is. And why, and I think Gabe brought it up too, why would you sign him to an extension not even 4 months ago, 4.5 months ago, if you're planning on trading him now? Is it because of what's happened this season with all of the injuries and you're like, we're not competing in 2026, so maybe try and get something? But if you trade a second franchise cornerstone within a decade, you're going to lose a lot of the fan base. Now, I don't know if it's going to be enough that it's really going to affect Ken Kendrick's money, but it could for a few couple of years. Like, you could see, like why should we go? Like, and it's like this with every sport. You're like, why should I be into this team when they don't give a shit about me? Well, because they don't. They absolutely don't. And one other thing from this article, like, I was thinking about, all right, did Nick go out of his way to find dirt on the team? Or did somebody reach out to him and be like, hey, I heard this? And then Nick, like, did Nick find out about this a week ago? Did he find out after the whole situation, after the All-Star break? Like, that's my biggest question. Is, did you sit on this for a month waiting for the perfect time to release it for the most clicks and views? Or did you really find out about this a week ago? Because that's what I don't understand. I'm like, yeah, what Marte did after the All-Star break, going to the DR, not really telling the team.
Not the greatest look.
Kind of shady. Like, I'm not gonna be on Ketel's side on that. Like, he dropped the ball on that. Like, and that's why I think maybe it could have been Gino, maybe as the disgruntled, but like, it didn't matter because they beat the Cardinals in that series. So him not being there was not the reason. And just, it's another, we got to find a scapegoat that's not the manager and it's not the front office. We got to blame a player or another coach. Like, to me, it's like, this whole thing is so infuriating, and it just shows that all they care about is their money. And it really, really does suck. I personally don't believe that there's anyone currently on the team that has a problem with Marte. I truly, truly don't. Because we would have heard this before. We would have heard rumblings of this. And I know they said, the biggest kept secret is now out. What? The fact that we have a cheap owner? And we thought he wasn't cheap for a year and a half because they went to the World Series. But he spent money the last 2 seasons and it didn't work. And that's most likely why he's wanting to cut payroll. It's like, see, I did what you guys wanted and it didn't make a difference. Like, I truly think that's why he is, why he's probably wanting to cut payroll. Because he's like, or Hazen told him, yeah, we're not competing next season. There's no reason to go out and spend money. But you don't trade your most valuable play. Like, that's like the Pirates going and trading Skeens right now. They are not going to do that. Like, it doesn't make sense. Now, around the trade deadline, the Pirates did listen to calls, and my standpoints on this has changed because it has come out numerous times that they have listened to conversations for Marte, and it should be like Gabe said. Oh, immediately put the phone down. Like, you shouldn't even listen, because then you're like, oh, they're offering me 3 out of their 5 top prospects. Is that better for our long future success? Like, there's no reason to entertain the idea. And I know, Brett, you said there's no one in Major League Baseball you would trade Marte for. There's probably 3 players for me. Skeens, Ohtani, and Witt. Nobody else.
Every single one of them we would not pay. Like, they would not fork up the money for the contract. Like, even if they trade for Skeens, they would just let him walk in free agency. If they trade for Skubal, they'd let him walk in free agency. Like, that's my whole point is, like, they already spent the money on this dude. Like, I'm not going to see us trade this guy just to let him walk in free agency or only get prospects in return. And it's another Paul Goldschmidt situation where they do nothing here and then they go to other teams and they finally start to produce, like Luke Weaver, like Carson Kelly.
Yeah, and the fact that Hazen around the deadline said, oh, no one's untouchable. I'm like, that's where you messed up. Because the fact that you didn't say Carroll or Marte is up for availability, it just shows that Kendrick basically gave him a directive. Like, we're not competing next year. Try and get as much as you can so we can compete in 27. And that even includes trading potentially Carroll and Marte. And I think that is just an awful, awful decision. Just so ridiculous.
I mean, I kind of want to bring up something that Jeff is saying about, like, Kendrick. I mean, he did spend like 2 years. He hadn't really spent too much, and I do agree. Like, I don't want to put Kendrick out under the bus real quick, just like that. But I will say, like, a lot of these contracts came at a time when this team's future was uncertain, and one of the biggest criticisms for the longest time about this team was they don't spend money, they don't win anything. What do? They won they went to the playoffs, went to the World Series, and then they started spending money. So the 2 criticisms that they had about, this cheap owner doesn't spend, he spent. The second they approved the HB 240, whatever that House bill that guaranteed the Diamondbacks were going to stay, is now, now they know they're going to stay here. So kind of why do you need to spend? You don't need to have anybody to defend you anymore on the house or anything anymore. Like, they can cut payroll, they can be as cheap as they want, and they still have a home in Chase Field for the next 25, 30 years.
Yeah, and even like like Jeff's saying, I'm putting trust in Kendrick because he walked the walk. He's walked the walk 2 years. 2 years. This is the same man that would not bring back Randy Johnson to get his 300th win over what, like $4 or $5 million extra that Randy was asking for. Like, again, I know money back in the day in like 08, 09, whenever that was, when he got his 300th win, is different money than nowadays. But like again, I think he saw the money from the postseason. He said, "Ooh, I'll invest now to get back into this for this team." And like I said, this is a tinfoil hat. Maybe it's not him, but I would not put it past him at all because of how he's made comments about players in the past. I believe even there was a comment in here, I'm trying to find it exactly, where someone was saying that, like Cam Forrest saying, also maybe KK was just venting to Nick, like he vented about regretting Monty signing at the end of last season, not realizing he's putting his foot in his mouth in this one. That could very well be it, or maybe Ken isn't actually like trying to self-sabotage. Maybe Ken isn't trying to, burn a bridge so he can trade him. But again, the whole thing is, it sounds like what Perdomo's saying, as long as Gurriel, whether it's some former players like Gino or maybe Randall Grichuk, maybe Christian Walker, because I don't think it's Naylor. Because again, just from the sounds of the article, that it was frustrations from last year's season as well. I would assume it's somebody from the 2024 season that carried on into this year. So again, it could very well be one of these players. This could all be this could all just be an absolute sham, and like it's not from nowhere. But again, Nick's not just the kind of art writer that like I think would put this out there. So I would assume he probably heard it from somewhere. And again, I think that he probably had the same thought process as a lot of us. Like, wow, that's kind of a crazy thing to say. Like to even think about your MVP caliber player. So like I think this is a pretty crazy thought process. So I'm gonna put this article out there, and that's why again I don't think that he's necessarily self sabotaging in the way of he fully wants to just sell everybody off. But again, I would not put it past him to be the one that has made some of these comments in the front office. Again, he's been very vocal about Justin Upton, which he was. I feel like a lot of the fan base was like kind of torn on him. Steven Drew was a really liked player. Monty, everyone disliked. So he probably learned from Steven Drew. Wow, maybe if I am vocal and in my criticism in the public about a fan favorite player, people won't like me. So I'm just going to, I'm just gonna leak it through somebody else. Like again, I think that Pecoro's getting a lot more hate on this than he necessarily deserves. Like I do agree, maybe the timing wasn't the greatest, but I still think in a lot of this, Ken Kendrick wouldn't
He
surprise me at
probably
all.
doesn't even know because he's barely on Twitter. He probably has not seen a single thing. I'm curious what's going to happen tomorrow, though. Like, if he tries to go into the clubhouse, like, is Jerry going to tell him, get out? Like, is it going to be one of those things where, yes, he still has access, but the current clubhouse is going to be very, like, shady, turn a shoulder to him and not really, because they're like, why? Or maybe they ask, who's your source? Now, he can tell him or he cannot. Like, that is entirely up to him. Like, he doesn't, again, he didn't have to put it in the article. It's just, it would be nice to know. Like, is it someone that we all really enjoy? Is it someone that's currently on the team? And I feel that's why they struggled the last 3 days. Is they're like, we don't know who to trust in this clubhouse right now. Who's the one that really said these things about Marte, which we know is not true? Because for this to come out of nowhere, it's not like he's been with the team for 2 seasons. He's been there for what, 8 seasons? No, more than that. Like 9 seasons now. Like we would have heard rumblings of players have an issue with him. That's why I think either that part is completely false and no one has an issue with him, or it's a former player that was with the team last year that's no longer here. Um, could it be another person in the front office? Like maybe it's not Ken Kendrick. Maybe it's somebody else that really is blaming Marte for a lot of the struggles.
Yeah, I kind of want to jump in. Yeah, I mean, maybe it isn't Ken. I mean, that's just the thing. He's the front-facing owner of the team. Like, this ownership group is huge. It's not just Ken by himself. It's the whole ownership group. And if there's people inside that ownership group who have a problem with Patel, maybe they feel like he's not performing to with the contracts and stuff like that. They might feel like they're not getting their money's worth from him. So could be other people in that same ownership group as Ken. Might not be Ken at all. So either way, when it comes to speculating, then we just have to go off of what's there, what's not there. And so for me, I don't know about players. I don't know who I could ever say anything about. Some of these guys might have problems, some of them might not. Like I said, he's had multiple different teams, multiple different teammates on this organization since he's been here. These 9 years that he's been here, he's had a huge amount of different people on this team, and none of them had ever said anything publicly. And why not? I mean, you see guys go on the Mookie Betts podcast and they air their dirty laundry. You see guys on what was Starting Nine before, now Baseball is Dead. They'll air out dirty laundry. Like there's different podcasts where guys will go on and just straight up say like, yeah, I didn't like this guy, I didn't like that guy because of this, because of that. This is the first time we're ever hearing this about Ketel, and it would be really easy to say something like that. I was like, yeah, this dude's a little lazy. I don't like his work ethic, this or that. But I also want to bring up the fact that I tweeted this out. I counted it. I went through his game logs. In total this season, he has asked for 2 days off. He's played in over 90 games, and he's asked for 2 days off. And for the other games that he didn't start in, I mean, that's not up to him. That's up to Torrey. And we got on here and just blasted Torrey about giving him a day off when we all felt that he maybe didn't need to. And even the one last season, the day he asked off in September, I remember that game specifically because I was pissed off about it because it first came out. They interviewed Ketel in the locker room before the game. They asked him, "How are you feeling? Like, is it your ankle again?" He said, "No, I'm fine." Torrey just said I needed a day off. He specifically said that. Then the game happened. They lost that game. Then afterwards is when he said, "Yeah, my lower back." And then Torrey said, "Yeah, it was his lower back. He needed a day off." So that was definitely one of those things where I was like, "Was it, or were you now? Did the media trainees come in just tell you, hey, don't tell them that you're okay? Like, you got to back up your manager or something like that?" Because he said he was fine, and then suddenly we're hearing a different story after the game. So in terms of that, that's why I have always had issues with that one from last season. Is just the story changed throughout the game about what was wrong with Marte. He said he was fine, then he said he's not fine. So I don't know. I don't know. Who to believe at that point.
And even kind of bring up another one of Jeff's comments here, saying once again, there's nothing to corroborate any of this happening. There are multiple sources now saying this is BS. You do the math, and that's also the thing is like I do agree. Like some of these sources coming out, but it's like when they say like are they saying the entire story is BS, or is it just the fact that like them looking at a trade is BS? Maybe like that is because even going back to what Jeff was saying about this just being for clicks, Nick has never been like that's what kind of like surprised me about like the timing of all this. Nick has never been a you know just for clicks kind of reporter. He's always been a very reliable reporter with the Dbacks. He's always had very in-depth coverage. Like he does have sources with certain things, so that's why like again. Like I do agree, the timing on it maybe not the best thing. Like maybe hold on to it until they're confirmed out of the playoffs, or wait until the offseason. But the way I'm, looking at it for this, and again, maybe it's like I think it can go both ways. Like, it doesn't seem like there's much to corroborate Nick doing this just for clicks. Is I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he did hear this from one of his sources. Maybe it was a former player that was just like, hey, like this is maybe they saw Ketel Marte going off and he made a comment like, oh, it would have been so nice if you would have done this coming out of the All-Star break. Would have been so nice. And again, this is all just hearsay. Like we don't know exactly what is going down. But again, that's where like
we're never gonna know. By the way,
we're never gonna know. But that's where at least I'm thinking. Again, Nick hasn't had it. If this came directly from Bob Nightingale right out of the bat before anybody else, maybe I'd be like, okay, like Bob, Bob's always had a rough time, putting out. Like he's always, him, John Heyman, some of these guys, they kind of like tweet before they confirm things fully. Obviously, the Arson Judge thing is a big thing. And again, even like what Jeff's saying, could be a great guy with the bad source and he rolled the dice. And like that is very true. Like maybe this is the one of the few times where, he got a bad source, but I don't necessarily think that he did this just for clicks. I think this was, like I've been saying, kind of like how a lot of us, Jeff, you've had the same reaction as us, even in the Discord, where you read this kind of thing and you're like, this doesn't like this timing is weird, but like this doesn't make any sense. Why would like you talk about this now? And that's where, especially being a little bit more removed from the trade deadline, of course, it happens right when they're doing good. So that's where my thought process is. He's just kind of having that same thought where like, wow, like this is kind of an insane thing that whether a former player, whether somebody in the organization, even like, like Gabe said to, your point, Jeff, maybe it's not just Ken, maybe it's some of the other people in the ownership group. Cause again, he is the, majority owner and one of the, like the big
managing partner.
Managing partner, thank you. Like the managing partner. It's not just him making the financial decisions. It's not only one owner. He is the more, he's the face behind the ownership group. So again, maybe it isn't Ken. Maybe it isn't, an actual like former player. Maybe it was a former player that isn't as, interwoven with the clubhouse. Maybe it was an offhanded comment from, Josh Naylor, a guy that doesn't know the team as well. Maybe it's something, heard from a player from a player from a player to where the information is bad. But again, just the entire situation is just still crazy to me. And it would be the most, accurate thing ever for this all to happen. And then I don't think it shows it on the screen there. But like I finally got my Ketel Marte jersey hung up next to my Paul Goldschmidt one, and I'm like, of course we're gonna trade one franchise player.
Try it again.
We're gonna trade one franchise player and Paul Goldschmidt right up there, and then a few years later we're gonna trade this franchise player. Like it's insane to me that this is even the thought process, and that's where I think a lot of our frustration comes into, because whether it's a bad source, whether it's coming from a certain person or not, just even having the thought of like, yes, I think you can be frustrated with maybe Cattell asking for a day off or not even saying and literally just ghosting and being like, oh hey, like they're like, hey, where are you? You're supposed to report to like BP today, and he's like, oh, I'm not going to be in until tomorrow or the day after. Like I get the frustration with that. Like that would be frustrating for any person in the job. But just like how in certain jobs, if somebody's a really good employee, maybe you give them like, hey, let me know next time, but like we're all good going forward. Like we're good. Thank you for just better communication is all I asked for. Like it should never jump to a, oh, we need to trade this guy because he's a clubhouse cancer. We need to trade this guy because he's a diva. Like I don't think any of that is warranted other than
I'll
just a
give
bunch
you
of
the diva part though. Like, I don't think he's a cancer. I think he just knows how good he is. So
But
yeah, he's gonna
when you say
have.
a diva, like what does he do that makes him a diva? Does he have show a little bit more emotion? Like does he like that's where I'm like that just seems I
I
don't
think
necessarily think he's
people
a
will
diva.
see it as being a diva because of the fact that he's requesting days off for games, which, based on his injury history, I understand why. Because he's had such just awful injuries and then he's out for long periods of time. My biggest fear with this is that none of this was said, but it soured the relationship so bad. Marte's like, I cannot be associated with this franchise anymore, and he asked for a trade. That's
Yeah.
what my biggest fear is after all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also people, if they call him soft. I remember last season we all got on the training staff for the fact that they let him play with that ankle injury. He played like 3 or 4 more games after injuring his ankle. Like he didn't go on the IL immediately. He tried to tough it out, and you could tell right away he just couldn't. Like he took a couple hard swings, and then he kind of just jogged, and they took him out of the game because he just couldn't, keep playing anymore. And like when you get a high ankle sprain, like those you need rest. You need to recover from that sort of thing. And if people were saying, oh, maybe it was Corbin who said it because he has his a little bone chip or whatever. But even in his case, I mean, he struggled to hit anyways. But it was
That's not
also
his personality. Like,
that's also
that's.
one of those things where Corbin also, like what the training staff, what the medical staff, what everyone said was it is what it is with Corbin. It's not going to get any better, like because he rests it. You literally just have to wait it out, like no matter what. So he can be taking hacks and he can be playing the field. He can do literally the same thing, or he could be at home with the bandage around his wrist and it's going to recover at the exact same time. It's not the same as breaking a bone or something like that. It's just a little piece of bone that had chipped off. Usually those have to dissolve and they dissolve back into the body itself. Like the white blood cells, they attack it, they dissolve the bone, your body reabsorbs it. That's basically it with what happened with Corbin. So it's a different situation from having a high ankle sprain, a back problem, or whatever it is, where those you do need rest. With Corbin, it was literally just you just have to wait until the bone dissolves.
Yeah, and even I know this is another like I guess tinfoil thing, and maybe you call me a Cattell meat writer. I generally don't care. Like again, generational second baseman. He's having a peak that you do not see these numbers from second baseman anymore. Like on the offensive side, on the defensive side, he is an actual MVP caliber player that you hardly ever see this from second base. So yes, I'm going to defend him because again, getting rid of him sets his team back. Maybe after what's gone down this year, again, people calling him soft for, and again, he did find out after he already said he wasn't coming back from the DR, his house got robbed, which is another funny coincidence on the timing. People called him soft. Maybe it's one of those where even before that, he's like, like with the even the internet alone this year, people were calling him soft, bitch made, all these other kind of things when the whole thing about him crying in the White Sox game about the fan that said
Yeah.
things about his mother. So maybe he's like, you know what? I'm just not gonna say like maybe something happened in the DR. Maybe there's a family emergency. Maybe there's something that went down where he's like, you know what? Like I need like an extra mental day. Like even Tori said, like he's a very emotional guy. Whether that's soft or not, I don't care. Like maybe he's just trying to be like, I'm not going to make this out there because then it's going to become a whole thing. People are going to say even like crazier things. Where it's just I'm not going to say anything. And maybe that's not true. Maybe it's not. Again, we're never going to know exactly every single detail that's gone down into all this unless like the people involved themselves come out and say something again. I don't think Cattell's going to address it because I think he's going to, he's going to be like even like what Domo says. What a lot of these guys they just want to move on. They're like, dude, like this is a nothing burger. This is a this is a story that doesn't need to really be focused on, and it's taking away from the play on the field, and it's affecting these guys in a way that I know a lot of people are like, and even will kind of lead into the series recap here. They're like, oh yeah, the all this news articles coming out here is the reason why they lost these last few games against the Rockies. No, it's because their bullpen's dog shit. Like half of those guys in the bullpen haven't even been on this team for that long. Like I don't think any of them are really this affected by what is going on with the whole Ketel thing. It's just again the bullpen has just been dog shit this year. That's an entirely different point that we'll get to here when we do our full recap. But again, it's been nightmare flashbacks to the
Also,
whole
people,
Goldie thing.
stop saying that Tori is soft, like blaming this on Tori.
Yeah,
It's not solely on Tori. It's not solely on Marte. I think it is a mixture. Like they just he sees him like a son. He sees that he's struggling, and he does what he thinks is best to be able to help him. And
exactly.
most of the time, him missing a few days, like missing a game in a series, most of the time he comes back and he plays really well. Like his last 162 games is absolute, like probably the best stretch for an offensive player in D-backs history. I would say even more than what Gonzo did in 2001 because he's a corner outfielder. That's what they do. This is not what second basemen do. They do not put up this kind of power numbers.
And if they do, they're not great defensively. Like a
Yes.
lot of guys in. I mean, it reminds me of there's a Cubs second baseman that won the Gold Glove back in like the late 2010s. Forgetting his name there, but he was not a power hitter at all. You're either a really good defender, or you're a power hitter that you probably play a corner spot or you're moved to DH. And we're seeing a combination for something that we genuinely have not seen. And again, I get the frustration. I get being like, wow, maybe should figure this situation out. Could tell maybe again be more open with your teammates. But even like Gabe said, he will play through injuries with like the ankle thing last year. He doesn't strike me as a dude that's just gonna every week like the SpongeBob meme. Nah, I don't really feel like it. Like that does not sound like Ketel Marte at all. So many players are backing him. Just
He's
the track
competitive. He
record.
likes
He's
to play.
competitive.
Like,
Exactly.
Yeah,
just
and I always
stop.
question when people start throwing out the word diva because it has some, certain connotations that I think are
If it was a
really
white dude
negative.
doing this, they wouldn't be fucking calling him a diva. I
Yeah,
can
they wouldn't be
promise you
calling
that
this.
much.
I don't want to say straight up, but yeah, there's some racial connotations calling guys diva. Like usually does go to the Latino or black players when they get called divas. Like they get called out for a reason. But with Cattell, it's like, when can you ever pinpoint a time where he's a diva? Is he showing up late to practice every single day? Is he, you know, not playing? I don't even know. Well, like, what is there to even say about divas? Just other maybe not participating with the group or just like keeping to himself. I'm like, sometimes just guys don't like other people that way. Like it's just kind of the way it is. Like I mean, everybody here, I'm assuming most people here have a job that they go to. Do you hang out with all your coworkers? Do you hang out with all of them? Like no. Like I have some coworkers that I like. There's some coworkers that I don't really like too much, and if they feel like I'm a diva because I don't really talk to them, then like, oh well, like I'm sorry, I'm not. Like I'll talk to you. It's just I just don't find some people that interesting to talk to. So, it is what it is. But we're not all friends with our coworkers. These are what 40 guys in a clubhouse at certain points throughout the year, and people move in, people move out. You'd have to get along with all your coworkers, and these guys, they have. That's what Tori's job is. He is managing the clubhouse as well as managing on the field. Like look at teams like the Dodgers. Dave Roberts, one of the main things that everyone likes about him is the fact that he keeps clubhouses together. You like? I know Freddie Freeman seems really humble, but I'm sure he has an ego on him. I'm sure Mookie Betts has an ego. I'm sure Gambling Otani has an ego. Like all these guys have egos, and you need a guy to keep them in check. And Dave Roberts is doing it with them, and for the most part, seems like Tori is keeping these guys in check with their egos as well. Like he's doing a good job with these guys. So whenever you call somebody a diva, like there has to be something there. You can't just call somebody a diva and then not explain what is making him a diva.
Especially when we don't
So
have all the full details on like maybe why they might be asking for days off.
I want to bring this up because I've been seeing this a lot. Cam saying I won't say Torey Lovell doesn't know how to handle Ketel, but he didn't know when Ketel would be back and be available for the first game after the All Star break. He's the it's not his job that Ketel reaches out to him to say, "Oh, I'm taking a paid day off." That's the HR department. Yes, a professional baseball team has an HR department. That's probably who he went through, and they probably report to more the business side. So either that's Hazen or Hull. So again, it's just lack of communication in the organization. I'm not putting it solely on Torrey because John Gambadoro of 98.7 did ask this to Torrey on Friday, and Torrey said he didn't know that he was going to be back in time. Did not know until like that day. So I just, yeah, it just sucks. Like this whole thing. And everyone is saying, "Oh, Ketel's soft, trade him now." I do not want to see you change your tune when it ends up being all this is false. Don't say, "Oh, he's not soft anymore." Like, there's one reporter that covers baseball that has not talked about this, and that's Jeff Passan. So until he says something, maybe we should just wait to see if this is actually true. Because if what Francis Romero said is true, and none of it is true, like, could Ketel sue for defamation potentially? Like, that's something to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, so this is something that I am hoping that we can kind of like leave in the rearview mirror. I know it'll be talked about, especially once the off season comes around. Like even today, dude, I looked up because I was trying to find the exact article for Ketel Marte from AZ Central, and I saw like FanSide had already had 3 teams that have the firepower to trade for Ketel Marte, and it was like the Tigers, the Mariners, and the Dodgers, and I'm like, no, no, no. Again, like I don't even care. Even if there was a world where they didn't end up trading him, one, it would just be a bad, horrible move because again, you have an established player. You know what you're getting in Ketel Marte. We've already seen like again Locklear, which we'll kind of dive into him here in a minute here for this series. Like some guys, they don't fully pan out well in the major league level. Where if you trade with Ketel Marte, that will go down. I guarantee you. As one of those like either YouTube things or of top 5 worst trades in Major League Baseball history.
There's
That will
no way we're getting any return that's going to say that we won that trade.
yeah, and
There's
even like some
no
of the trades
no
that we
way.
made, like I know we were around the trade deadline, Gabe was very vocal about like being hesitant of Hazen being a seller. Looking at even one of the more recent trades that we were like, oh, we fleeced the Blue Jays. The way things are going right now, the Blue Jays might end up being the ones that won that trade. Dalton Varsho's playing really, really well. He's like a 900 OPS, and he's the best center fielder in baseball. And again, you're not going to know who won this trade for another like 5 to 10 years, but it's one of those where it's not the greatest track record when it is to trading. Like we saw what he got in return for Goldschmidt. His situation is entirely different. He was a free agent. They weren't going to bring him back. I understand you got to get what you can for that thing, but the track record is not there for me to even be confident. I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe you do sell high. Which one? I will never say that. Keep Ketel. He should never play in another uniform other than the Dbacks uniform. And 2, like, I'm not confident this team would even get something in return that would be even close to the same level like what we're seeing in a generational second baseman that is an MVP caliber. Like, it's not like some of these other positions where oh, you have number 1, 1A, then like 2 and 3 are a little bit behind. It's Ketel. It's the Moneyball meme. There's Ketel, 50 feet of crap, and then there's the rest of pretty much every second baseman in baseball. And I don't mean to discredit because there's a lot of great second basemen in baseball, but that's just how good Ketel Marte is. When you look at his numbers, like Brendan Donovan being second in All-Star voting, like kind of shows right there. Like yeah, just in the NL alone, there's not many other second basemen.
Also, Bryce Terang is probably the second best second baseman, and it's not even close. I say this all the time. The gap between after Marte is as wide as the Grand Canyon because it is. And like just one other thing that I keep seeing with everyone is like, oh, he's the best player on the team. He has to be the leader. Where does it say that the best player has to be the leader on the team? It doesn't. We just assume that it is. But if we've been following this team for a while, we all know that's not his personality. And that is just not. So stop, I think he is lead by his play, not the stereotypical leadership.
Fully agree.
Yeah, like it's not expected of so many guys. I mean, look at Otani. Otani is the greatest player ever. The Dodgers don't expect him to be a leader like at all. Like they got Miguel Vargas. I know none of those not Miguel Vargas, Rojas, and I
Dodgers
know
fans
there's
hate
problems
him though.
with him, and he's a trash person. But a lot of people say he's a leader and he's a natural born leader. Make of that what you will, but that's what they had to get a guy like him because you needed a vocal guy in that clubhouse, and that was him. Like it just other name any other team like the usually the best guy on the team isn't the actual leader. It's always the guys who are maybe not even the second or third best guy. Like just that's not the way it works. Like even the D-backs, like when they won the World Series, Randy Johnson was not the vocal leader. Everyone knew stay away from Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson didn't talk to anybody. That was like the whole thing this whole time. During those years with Randy here, it's just like, yeah, nobody talks to Randy. Nobody's really friends with Randy, like, especially during game day. Like he's really mean. But the leaders in that clubhouse were Mark Grace. It wasn't Luis Gonzalez. Luis Gonzalez wasn't there, standing on chairs and telling everybody, come on guys, we can do this. It was guys like Mark Grace or Jay Bell, like or
Probably
even
Craig
Craig
Counsell.
Counsell, like there's a reason why these guys end up doing these sort of coaching or managing jobs. It's those type of guys who lead the clubhouse, and I know 20 years from now, the guys that I'm going to see leading clubhouses, it's going to be Jose Herrera and it's going to be Perdomo. That's who it's going to be. It's not going to be Ketel. It's not going to be Corbin. I can see Alec. He seems to be the sort of personality. But even on the Cardinals, Yadi Molina for the longest time he was the leader. It wasn't Albert Pujols. Yadi Molina was the leader in that clubhouse. Just he wasn't the best player. He was technically, at least offensively, he wasn't the best catcher. Best hitting catcher, but he was one of the leaders on that team. Like it's just, I think throwing a label on a guy just because of the way he is, or the way he plays, I think it's unfair to them, and I don't think they should take on a role that they don't feel ready for, they don't feel comfortable in, because and then that's how you get these sort of situations where maybe guys might see him as a diva because he's trying to take a leadership role or something like that. Like some guys are built for it, some guys are not.
Yeah, even kind of like back in the day with Justin Upton. Justin Upton was a great player. Everybody wanted him to be like the vocal leader on the team, and like even then they called him a diva. Which like I think looking back on it, the dude again he wore his heart on his sleeve, and that's kind of what Cattell does. And I think that some people it can rub some people the wrong way. I don't think it rubs anybody in the clubhouse the wrong way. I don't necessarily think it rubs too many people in the front office the wrong way. But again, who knows? I don't think we'll ever find out what the exact source is. Again, even like one of the comments earlier said, like nobody will ever reveal their sources because then you're not going to be able to pretty much get those sources again. So I don't, unless it's
But
honest.
you may have lost access to a lot of the team because of this article. Like they're all going to be like lost a lot of respect for you.
We can just ban Oscar right now. There, we can. I don't think we need that piece of shit even mentioned with the D-backs ever.
So
The guy with the worst ERA in Japanese baseball. Like I don't think
there's one person that can come out and say we're not trading Marte, and that's Mike Hazen. If he comes out in the next few weeks and says no, those reports were not true, we are not trading Marte this offseason, then this all really doesn't mean much. But he did state it around the trade deadline that no one was untouchable.
But he does that for every single year, though. That's the one thing about Hazen that like at least is consistent. Where he's like even when like certain guys over the years where he's like I'll listen to calls. Like very little chance I'll probably actually entertain the idea. But like hey, you know what, man? Like again, kind of like even earlier, people were saying you wouldn't trade him for a Scooble or an Otani or a Skeens. Like who knows? Maybe he's sitting there where if that did happen, he's like this is a trade you only see in a video game. Sure, might as well. But like I don't think that they'll actually ever entertain those trades. I think he's just he's because if you're a GM that's not gonna listen to anything, then like how are you gonna try to get another team when you call up them for a player they might not be necessarily fully willing to move, but that's how you get some blockbuster deals. So I think that's he's playing his cards close to his chest. I don't think he'll ever shut down a trade, but if there was ever a time, I do agree with Brandon. There's ever a time for him to come out and vocally be like, "This is not true. We are not shopping him. This will not happen." Like we're not actively going to look to try to trade him. This would now be the time because again,
Tomorrow would be fantastic, by the way. But if he wants to do it before the end of the season, I'm still okay. But if he doesn't come out, like, and we get that passing bomb after, like, in the off season,
I'll puke. I'll puke, man. Like I will. I
like
will.
everyone's saying that, oh, I'm not gonna renew my season. I'm still gonna get my season tickets because I love baseball. I love baseball. So like, just not going just feels very just weird to me. Like it's the only thing. It's like the one thing that I love more than really anything else in the world. To be honest, don't have a wife, don't have a kid, so baseball is my number one love. So
That's fair. So
um,
yeah, and we've been. I did not expect us to go this long here on the single topic of
I did,
Ketel. I mean, I
I
expected us
did.
to go a little while here, but any other final thoughts on this whole situation? Maybe something else you want to circle back to, something else that you wanted to, mention a few more things here before we actually get into our recap of a very, very fucking rough series in Mile High City.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I don't want to hit on Nick or anything like that or anybody who's writing about it. Like, they're getting their sources telling them what to write and what not to write. So he's doing his job as a journalist, and I mean, I guess he has to take the hits that come with it as well. I mean, he is also the guy who didn't vote for Paul Goldschmidt in 2013 for the MVP. So if you want to talk about integrity and a guy who's never lost his integrity, maybe he does have bad sources, maybe he doesn't. It kind of is what it is, but I don't know. It's frustrating to see this sort of thing come out, especially at this time. It came in after the season. It'd be frustrating as well, but the timing isn't as suspect, and I think that this is just some background noise that hopefully the team is able to overcome and then do what I asked, you know, earlier this after the trade deadline, which is just give us competitive baseball. Play meaningful games in September. We're still a couple weeks away from September. If they're able to get to 500, the Mets are in free fall. They could always make a move. I mean, I don't trust his bullpen, but at least make it entertaining enough to where you're not out of it September 1st.
Yeah, 100%. Just like we've said it before, just give us something, fun to watch. I'm going on Wednesday, and like, I want to not be oh, let's look forward to 2026. I want to be like, give me something excited about here in 2025. But I like William Harold's comments here, kind of bring up what Brandon said about baseball being his basically number one love. He says, why hasn't kids ain't got shit on a good changeup? And I think that's just, I don't necessarily agree, but I think that's just pretty funny. Ball is life indeed. But Brandon, any final thoughts on this whole Ketel Marte situation before we kind of dive into the actual series against the Rockies?
I hope it doesn't linger too long with the guys in the clubhouse. I hope Marte's little interview today, which I absolutely loved. Like everyone was giving him shit. Like, isn't that Tor's job? Tor did it on Friday on the radio. He doesn't need to do it again. The players know how he feels because he's probably did it like twice this weekend. It was really good to see a player from the clubhouse come out and say, like in the media, this is not true. So, and I'm like, there's no one else I expected it to be in the clubhouse other than Perdomo. And I really don't want to talk about the Rocky series. I really, really
We'll,
don't.
we'll make it quick because trust me, like it pissed me off. There's a lot of things about the series that pissed me off, but we at least got to talk about it because again, that's what we are here to do. We could have done a whole separate show about this, but we'll at least make it this quick because I know a lot of us want to flush it and turn the page onto the next series. But things didn't necessarily start off looking like that bad. Like you said, they won the series against the Rangers. They went into Colorado. Like we said, if they could sweep at worst, win the series, really keeps their momentum up, especially because there was a lot of crucial losses. The Brewers were still hot. Their 14-game winning streak finally ended today. The Reds lost a few games. The Mets lost a few games. And the Dbacks would have kind of taking care of business there. They could have been, in the thick of things, like maybe a game at worst under 500, like 3.5 games out of the wild card. And like I said, Thursday it kind of started off doing pretty well there. Eduardo Rodriguez, which everyone expected, he went 7 innings, which is a season high in Coors Field. I mean, I didn't have that on my bingo card. I don't know how about you guys, but 7 innings out of Erod with only 6 hits, 1 run, and 1 walk with 6 strikeouts, and only 1 home run. Did not expect that, and he had a bunch of whiffs, which I know every now and then he can get some high whiff games. Even looking back to the Nationals one this year, where he had like 12 strikeouts, it'll happen every now and then. But really solid game there from Erod, kind of setting the pace there. The offense gave him a big cushion to kind of work around there because in the first 2 innings, they put up 5. Gurriel got a 3-run blast in the first, and then well-known slugger Jose Herrera hit a 2-run home run for his 3rd career homer. It was a Coors home run, so let's be real. Then Perdomo did stay hot in this game. Went 2 for 4. Like which is funny because even looking back on his stats the rest of the series, I think this news about Ketel, because he is the team leader, I think it kind of affected him because this was the only game where he had multiple hits and really went off. Game 2, like I said, this is the day that the article about Ketel and everything kind of came out there. I think affected him a little bit there. Fott was pretty solid in this one. 6 innings, 8 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 4 Ks, only 1 home run. Did have 14 whiffs, which 7 of them were on a sweeper alone. So again, not the worst start. I'll take a 6 innings, 4 runs from any pitcher in Coors Field any day of the week. Jake was the only hitter on this team that even had a multiple hit day. So everyone else kind of either had a knock or two, or just didn't really get much going on there. And then the team as a whole went 2 for 6 with runners in scoring position, and they dropped that one 3-4. So already not able to win the series, or not able to sweep the series. But Saturday things were looking really good there. Ryan Nelson was balling out. He went 6 1/3 with 8 hits, 4 runs, 4 strikeouts, 1 home run allowed. Only 85 pitches, but even on the broadcast they mentioned kind of in those higher altitudes, maybe a guy that might have a 100 pitch limit might be lower into like the 90s and all that. So he did get pulled there in the 7th inning. He was missing a lot of bats in this one too. He had 15 whiffs with 4 of them on his 4-seamer, 9 on his slider, and then 2 on his cutter. So again, that 4-seam and slider combination can look really, really good there. Ketel, Gurriel, and ADC all had 2 hits apiece in this game, with Pena and ADC being responsible for all the RBI. ADC had 2 of them with a nice home run there, I believe is 2nd or 3rd on the year. And then somebody that wasn't looking as good in here, not even just the bullpen, but on the offensive side, Locklear continued to struggle. He went 0 for 4 in this game with 2 strikeouts. The Dbacks did have a 7-2 lead after the ADC lead, or ADC home run, thankfully. But like we mentioned all the time, no lead is safe in Coors Field, and the 2025 Dbacks bullpen did just that. Andrew Hoffman came in for back-to-back days. He was atrocious. I believe he gave up a leadoff double, or struck a dude out, gave up a double, and then walked 2 guys. And then Back, I believe, came in. He didn't do the greatest either. Both of them combined to allow 6 earned runs in just a combined 1-inning pitch, and gave up the lead, and the D-backs were down 7-10, and they could not get anything going there in the 9th. It just looks like the entire energy was just drained out of them. I know I turned off my TV very quickly, and I was very sadly playing MLB The Show the rest of the night. And then in today's game, again, another one where we weren't expecting, we didn't know who was going to start, and then they made a move where Nabil Krismat was called up there. And for having a spot start, very, very solid. I want to give a tip of the cap to Nabil again, especially in Coors Field. 5 hits, 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. Very solid for just a spot start. Carroll went 2 for 4 with a 470-foot fucking tank for his 27th on the season, which I believe is now a career high if it's not if it didn't already pass his career high. Which, seeing a guy that's 5'10", you don't normally see, yes, it's Coors Field, but you don't normally see some 5'10" guys sending a ball 470 plus feet. So that was really nice to see from him. McCarthy, Locklear, surprisingly Locklear and Alec all combined to go 8 for 14, where the rest of the offense didn't do too much there. And the team itself once again struggled with runners in scoring position. They went 2 for 14 in clutch situations and could not do anything. Woodford wanted to go back of his ways of being ass. Gave him a tip of the cap in last show about being pretty solid in this one. First inning wasn't terrible, and then the 7th inning there, things started to unravel. D-backs had a 4-1 lead, gave up a single. Then he got a strikeout. Things looking, okay, maybe we're work out of it. Back-to-back hit batters had the bases loaded for the Rockies. Then the Rockies got a single to make it 4-3, a ground out, and then another single. They took the lead 5-4. Again, a 1-run lead. We've seen crazier things from this team, especially in a run environment like Coors Field. 1 run really isn't crazy. The Rockies add another one on there in the 9th inning, and the D-backs had another fake comeback in the 9th inning. They got the bases loaded, and one of the runs scored on a sac fly from James McCann. Then, unfortunately, Ketel Marte popped up to end the game with the Rockies pitcher making a very, very strange play there to kind of get his first career save. But even the players are starting to show their frustration now with third base coach Sean Larkin, as Jake McCarthy looked like he was going to score easily on a Locklear hit there. As he was rounding third hard, I don't even think the throw was reaching the infield yet. I believe the throw was even actually headed towards third base, if I'm not mistaken. And Larkin gave him the break sign. McCarthy had to dive back in third.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he scored anyway, but still, seeing the players being that visually frustrated as well with Larkin. I don't think we've seen yet this year. He kind of looked at him and was like, why'd you give me the hold sign?" But you know, everything ended there, and again, the D-backs lose the final three in the series to the worst team in baseball and potentially one of the worst teams in baseball history. So kind of looking at everything that happened here, I know again, the first hour of the show was kind of talking about everything that overshadowed a little bit in the series, but just looking at the series in itself, what stuck out to you guys as a positive? What stuck out to you guys in like maybe like a negative aspect? For me, like I said, the bullpen, it was dog shit, but to me, that still falls on Hazen. Yes, maybe Torrey left in a guy a little too long. Maybe he pulled a guy too early, but not too much for him to work with when Mike Hazen is giving him bargain bin deals here. So, quick preview or quick thoughts on just this series in its whole as we're gonna try to mentally flush this and move on.
I guess for me, it's just a couple of standouts were Corbin and Alec. I think both of them had quite a few games with multiple hits. Seeing Corbin's power is just so impressive. Um, even the starting pitching, I think for the most part was really good, really solid, which is a good sign. I know it's the Rockies, but still, it's in Coors Field. It's not like a normal ballpark, so it was good to see some of them put in really good performances. Even Erod, I think. Hopefully, this is a good starting point. I know we said it a lot throughout the season, but the fact that he's able to get through 7 innings, hopefully he's able to get a back-to-back start with a game like this where he's able to go 6 or 7, not give up too many runs, give his team a chance to win. But in terms of the negatives, I mean, we've been talking about it this whole season. Is the runners in scoring position and the bullpen. They've both been terrible. So I won't focus on that so much as I will on Locklear. Locklear, since coming up, he's had about a month now of experience. It's not like he's been playing basically every single day. He's not like Jordan Lawler when he came up, where he's playing every third day or getting one at bat a week or something like that.
60 at bats.
This is a guy who has 60 at bats. I mean, that's still a low amount, relative, to the rest of the season and stuff like that. But it's a large enough sample size that kind of shows you why this guy, is almost 25 years old and still in AAA and was in Double A last year as well. Like, guy just swings and miss, just completely indecisive. How many check swings did he have this week? Like, it seems like damn near every at bat he had a check swing.
He got one for a hit.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like what the one hit that he got as well. Like, just he has looked completely lost at the plate, just not looking very good. And this was the supposed cornerstone of the trade. I didn't see it. I didn't see it at the time when they got him. I tweeted out that his numbers on Baseball Savant looked like Pavin Smith. I didn't want to, I didn't want to mean it like in a super in a mean way, but that is honestly kind of how I meant it. Just a guy who strikes out a lot, doesn't, will sometimes walk, but just not a lot of power, just nothing there that really jumps off the page that shows me, yeah, this dude is the future Christian Walker, the future Paul Goldschmidt, which I know I saw a lot of comparisons. Like, yeah, like this last month, he's been Paul Goldschmidt. Hasn't translated to the big leagues because that's just sometimes just how it happens. I mean, when was the last time the Mariners actually produced a really good major leaguer? This like it's been
That
rare. I
wasn't a
mean,
pitcher.
yeah, Cal Raleigh maybe was even theirs. Like, did they
I
get
think they drafted
right?
him and developed him. Yeah,
Yeah, and with him, I mean, even J Rod hasn't been all that he was cracked up to be originally. What's his face? Who's with the Braves now?
Oh, Kelnick.
Yeah, Kelnick supposedly, best shortstop, or even the guy that we got. I can't remember his name either. We had him for one season, 23.
Gene Segura.
Who?
Gene Segura.
No. The guy we got in 23, the one we traded for. Had those
Oh,
ankle issues or knee issues.
fuck.
Damn, we got a name. One
Yeah.
Rookie of the year 2020.
Oh, Lewis. Kyle
Kyle
Lewis.
Oh,
Lewis.
Kyle
Yeah,
Lewis. Yeah.
yes, it's shortstop. I was like, yeah, he was
Yeah.
their outfielder.
Like
Yeah,
Kyle Lewis, same thing too. Like, supposedly next big thing didn't pan out. So we were training for an offensive player from the Mariners. This is kind of what you expect from them. Like, they just really don't produce offensive players. Like, if you want to trade for something, it's a pitcher, not an offensive player. So Locklear, I mentioned that this is the series for him to show out in, because Pavin's gonna be back soon, and I don't want Pavin there either. But
he was scratched from tonight's lineup in Reno.
so like this was Locklear. He's gotten all the opportunities in the world to stay in a major league level, and so tomorrow or this next few days, if he gets sent down, then it's kind of deserved.
Yeah, say, and I think that's another thing that kind of stood out a bunch is even on the broadcast they're talking about his swing decisions. Like he's just chasing. It looks like he's only chasing like, fastballs. Doesn't matter the location. He's not looking for a specific pitch in his specific spot. And even some of his few hits here, kind of got a little bit lucky. And then one other positive from this weekend that I did at least want to bring up the Players Weekend. I know it's not as cool seeing some of the nicknames on the back of their jersey. I don't like the numbers on the hat there; those were ugly. But other than that, I like the bats that a lot of the players were wearing. I really liked Lourdes Gurriel's cleats; those were super cool. That his wife and his children, drew on there. They made a bunch of drawings, like a bunch of like love you dad, kind of like good luck, things like that. It was very adorable, very wholesome. So there was at least some other positives there. I wish that players would get to use those kind of bats all the time, because I would love to see the pencil bat from Doma more than just for one weekend. But that was at least another positive there, where
Or the
how
or the Corbin Carroll Perdomo belt that he wore.
yeah, the Corbin Carroll Perdomo belt. Like there's a lot of fun there with Players Weekend. That just bring back some of the nicknames on the back, just so then I can see Rich Hill come back one more time and bring back Dick Mountain from the archives, because that's an absolute blast there. But Brandon, passing it on to you, sir. What were some positives that you saw from this weekend? Whether it's the Players Weekend, whether some guys like Gurriel and Corbin look pretty solid in here in general, and then what are some negatives that stuck out to you? Whether it's Locklear bullpen, and maybe some other like decisions on the team.
I never thought I'd say this. Jake McCarthy. Go look at his numbers the last 2 weeks. It's like a 750 OPS, batting 304. He had a really good series. He finally got to 200 on his batting average. So congrats there to Jake. Trade him this offseason. His stock's not gonna be any higher than it is. So yeah,
outfield.
That was pretty good. Jerry, the last 30 games, Jesus Christ, he is batting 339 in about his last 100 at bats. Has like an 820 OPS. Like Jerry's just Jerry. Like Jerry's like outside. Like has been. Yeah, I'm still gonna say it. I think he's the second best shortstop in all of Major League Baseball. I think he's right behind Bobby Witt. Like, I know everyone's gonna not say it because he's not a household name and he doesn't have the pop. I would love for him to somehow hit 7 homers between now and the end of the year. Have a 2020 season. Like, that would be simply fantastic. But that's like almost like doubling what he's had this season so far. So I would say that's my positive. Negative. Andrew Hopkins had a really bad last 2 games. Absolutely tarnished his ERA. He had been really, really good before Texas. He had been dynamite in those first couple of outings. And he only gave up the 1 run to Rowdy Tellez, but he got 4 earned runs on Saturday. Yeah, on a Saturday, so his ERA is just screwed for the rest of the year, because that's how it is with a reliever. You have 1 bad outing, it sucks. It's the same it's that GIF that we post, same shit, different day. It's literally what it is with this bullpen. Like legit blew the last 2 games. So instead of it being a split, could have had a 3-1, and we basically lost all the good work that they'd really done the last week, which they've done that I don't know how many times. Like everyone's like, oh, they're going to go on a 10-game win streak. They haven't done it all year, so why would we expect them to do it now? Now, I'm not going to blame the article thing, but they definitely look different Friday, Saturday, and Sunday compared to Thursday. So, yeah, I just want this season to be over for this team, because I'm very curious. Even before this thing with Marte, I'm curious as to what Hazen is going to do. Is he not even going to try this offseason to better it because the chances of us competing in 2026 are extremely low? Like, I don't, I don't know. Um, I want them to be competitive. Like, I'm not saying go out and buy another $200 million player, but I don't want you to just not even try and basically bring back what you have this season with the bullpen. Like, I want you to make
Call me
some.
crazy. Call me crazy. Devin Williams. Call me crazy. Market's going to be
I,
down. It's his one. It's a one outlier bad year.
I
I'm
don't know.
just saying.
I mean, it just depends on how much it's really going to cost. Really, for me, like that's really what it's going to come down to. Like, we're not going to have Burns, Martinez, and Puck at the earliest this time next year, and that's being like super conservative.
Yeah.
If they're not competing, why even have them pitch at all next season? And for everyone that's like Locklear, don't matter. We're gonna have probably Paven potentially tomorrow. So yay.
Hispanic Titanic season, baby. I believe he's Rule 40 or Rule 5 eligible.
Tommy Troy, September 1st. I would love to see Tommy Troy up here for the month of September.
Yeah,
I would love to see
instead
that.
of Connor Kaiser, it'd be nice to see him get a few games in here because he's been doing pretty well. But before we get into our series preview, because again, there's not even any set starters for the D-backs Guardians, so there won't be too much to talk about there. One thing that I did want to kind of talk about here, it's not necessarily like D-backs fully centrally related, but it does involve them a little bit, is at the Little League World Series Classic tonight, which is, I believe it was the Mariners versus, oh fuck, who was it? It was the Mariners versus somebody, which one, Cal Raleigh had really cool catcher's gear, which is Little League photos of all of his teammates. But Rob Manfred was in the broadcast and was talking about one, there being expansion of some sort in the MLB soon, and I believe even talking Jake from Talking Baseball, he made a great point where a lot of times nothing like this is mentioned on TV or publicly like this unless it's coming in the next 2 to 3 years. So that's pretty cool to look at. Another baseball team. Maybe Portland finally gets the baseball team they deserve. I heard they're a great baseball town. And then two,
Memphis.
he did mention the rearrangement of divisions, kind of leading to more of geographical based, where like certain teams, like it sounds like just going off of what he was kind of saying. Maybe the Mets and Yankees are going to be in a division. Maybe we're not in a division with the Dodgers with how many California teams. Maybe it's going to be all of them in one. Where he was kind of citing less travel on these players, not having to worry about like, oh, an East Coast team playing a West Coast team and worrying about like, the time slot there where it's two teams that are on the same time playing, the two teams on the same time playing. So that was kind of cool, especially just I don't care. Less games against the Dodgers. Let me play like the Rangers and the Astros, some of these other teams a little bit more. Maybe not the Rangers because I still get PTSD flashbacks of that ballpark. But what are you guys' kind of thoughts again? I know there's no like full concrete news on it, but just because it was something that I saw mentioned earlier, and I feel like it's being over or not. I feel like again adding another team to MLB that we haven't seen, I believe, since the D-backs and the Rays were added in expansion in '96. I don't think we've seen a team do that yet. So it'd be the first time in around like 20, maybe 30 years, and then also like a division realignment. What are your guys' thoughts on the potential for both of those things coming up in the next like I don't know 3 to 5 years?
I'm definitely interested in it. I think it's probably something that's gonna be pushed by the players' union. I mean, you usually do want an expansion team. Like the NBA has 32 teams, I believe. The NFL, I believe, has 32.
Yep.
Um, so I think baseball could really benefit from having an extra couple of teams, whether it's Portland, Memphis, Nashville. Like I think there's a lot of pockets of huge baseball fandoms, and I think it would be really nice to have some teams in those cities that could really give these cities and give these towns and states an actual team to root for. So then you're not hearing from like people from Iowa who go for St. Louis or go for Kansas City or something like that because they don't have their own team. So it'd be nice to have some guys or some teams that are closer geographically as well. Just because I know they're in the same division, but Seattle and Houston. I don't know if you guys have ever looked up the travel time from Seattle to Houston. Houston is closer to Atlanta than they are to Arlington, I believe. So it's the flight from Seattle to Houston is 4.5 hours. That's from here to New York. That's how far they have to travel, and that's what 13 times now a year that they have to travel. So a team like the Houston Astros probably belong in a division closer to uh, whether it's Georgia or Florida. Like those teams that probably belong in a pocket together, not in the AL West because they are not on the West Coast. They are right down the middle, if not closer to the East Coast. So it would be better to see certain teams be redrawn, redistrict, and for the D-backs, I just don't want to play against the Dodgers and the Padres 26 times per season. Like, give us a fighting chance. I think if the D-backs were in a different division, it'd probably be a lot better than they are right now. Like, seeing these central teams, you know, just beat up on two or three different teams, and it's so frustrating to watch these teams with these terrible records. Like the D-backs should be in first place in half these places. But yeah, I think it's a good move. You always want more teams. I think it's always a good thing. I think 32 would probably be perfect. And like I said, giving guys less time to have to travel as much, I think is going to be beneficial for them all.
Yes, it will make it a little bit weird for divisions because I believe every division is equal with 5 teams per. I know it was a little bit different because back in the day before the Astros became an AL team, they were in the same division or with the Central. So it was the Cubs, Brewers, Pirates, Cardinals, Reds, and the Astros. So it was 6, and then the AL West usually only had 4. So now it's even at 5. So it will be a little bit kind of different where one team will have an extra team here and there, or one division will have an extra team in each league, but. I do agree. I think it's just great for baseball. It shows that what 6, 7, 8 years ago people were saying that baseball is a dying sport. Now look at these rule changes. Look what they're kind of doing for the sport. It's getting, I feel like, a little bit more popular. And then I think that the division realignment would be great because I do agree with you, Gabe. I do not want to play the Dodgers and Padres as much anymore. I think we wouldn't even play the Giants as much because I feel like they're farther up the coast. They're farther than obviously L.A., San Diego. So I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe put those 4 teams in one division and then maybe put the Mariners because the Mariners are a little bit closer. So maybe that's the new division there. Maybe we get thrown in a division with the Rockies, maybe like the Twins. Like I know it would change up American League and National League a little bit. So probably some teams would swap leagues and whatnot. But if it leads to a little bit more balanced kind of divisions here and there, to where we're not dealing with what the Tigers are in the Central, where every single team is under 500, and the Tigers, who've been struggling a little bit, are kind of running away with it. But it'll definitely be something to kind of keep an eye out. Whether it's Portland, I know like Scott's saying that their tourism has plunged and business is not great.
There are two teams over 500 in the AL Central, along with the Tigers.
Okay, but like, how close are what's the standings? 10 games back, 9 games back.
Guardians are 8.5, Royals are 9, but that's just because the Tigers are the Tigers right now.
Yeah, they're struggling right now, but yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how baseball kind of handles this because I think it'll be overall great for the sport. But Brandon, what are your thoughts on some of the potential one expansion team, which Harold or William corrected me here in the chat, we have not seen since '98. So it's still been almost around like 30 years. So by the time this happens, it'll probably be 30 years since an expansion team. What are your thoughts on that? And then what are your thoughts on the potential division realignment?
If they add, it's going to be 2 because it would make no sense to have 31 teams. They are not going to have it be an odd number. They're going to have it be an even number. So I think they add 2, and I think they're going to do what the NFL did, make it 4 divisions, not 3, because then you can do 16 per league, so you can do 4 in each division. How they do that, I have no clue because of how many are on the West Coast. Let's see, you got San Diego, Dodgers, Angels, Giants, A's, and Mariners. So what? Maybe we go into a division with, because by that point it's probably the Las Vegas Athletics, Colorado Rockies,
Rangers and Astros.
Rangers, like, I think that's what it would be. It would probably be a north, south, east, and west sort of thing. I'm completely fine adding 2 teams, whether that's in, well, if they add Portland, there's another West Coast team. So, and I just think, Memphis or Nashville. And for everybody saying, oh, D-backs, just go to Utah, there's no way Major League Baseball will let a state that they have half their spring training in to no longer have a major league team. Like, I get that's what it was a very, very long time when we didn't have a team here. But now that there is a team in the state of Arizona and you have half your teams here with spring training, there's no way they'll let them move. Like,
No
if
shot.
this stadium deal didn't go through, there's just maybe I don't see any way that they let the Diamondbacks leave this state. I personally just don't see that happening. But yeah, we're always going to be in a division with the Dodgers. I hate it as much as you guys, but the fact is we are so geographically closer to California than any other team. It would be very weird to not, unless they do the whole like A's, Dbacks, Rockies, Rangers, and Astros, which is still geographically like not really close with for the Rangers and Astros. Like that's still a pretty long flight. So, but we'll see what happens. I'm always down for more teams because that means more potential places to travel to see a road game.
True. Yes, I would love to make it to. I mean, I've only been to here in San Diego, but eventually, and I toured the Bang Bang Trash Can Stadium in 2017. So it'd be nice to see an actual game there and some other places. But I think it's just great for the sport in general, and it'd be very fun to see, especially because hopefully we get some cooler names than what the fucking the Utah Mammoth is what the fuck they're called now. L transition from the Coyotes to the Mammoth. Zero, boo, boo, terrible, boo. But it'd be kind of cool to see what kind of names they come up with. Maybe they go with. I mean, again, I think one of the best names in sports in the last like 10, 15 years for a new name, Seattle Kraken. That shit goes hard. That shit's cool
Oh,
as
it
fuck.
does.
Like that, the logo is super cool. Like, give me something like that for baseball. Like something like that cool where I'm like, dude, I'm not even a fan of that team. I'll buy that hat right there.
I saw way too many people say this weekend because of the whole Marte thing. They're like, "Oh, just freaking sell and move to Salt Lake City." I'm like, "Why are you wishing that? Like, why do you want this team to leave?"
It's also terrible for the economy if the team leaves. Like that's just not great. Um, but kind of going into our next series here, because again, I know that we have this 3 game matchup with the AL Central, I believe, second place team, Guardians. Um, like I said, there's no set pitchers for the D-backs. It's all to be decided. And the Guardians have that for game 3 as well. So we don't even know who's going to be starting on Wednesday for when I go. But at least tomorrow night, it's going to be Gavin Williams for the Guardians, who's 7-4 with a 3.38 ERA. He's been pretty solid for Cleveland this year. And then Tanner Bybee in game 2. He is 9-9 with a 4.54 ERA in game 2. Who knows? Maybe we see Slade Ciccone return in game 3. But again, all the D-back starters are all to be decided, and same with the Guardian starter on Wednesday. But what are some things that you guys are going to be looking out for? Maybe like certain player performances. Maybe certain like matchups that you might have an eye on, like maybe Corbin versus Gavin Williams or Bybee. For me personally, I think it's just going to be how the team responds in general. Kind of like puts this whole news that came out on Thursday behind them, and they just look forward and be like, you know what, the team is here, the team is behind Ketel, the clubhouse is still connected and good. Let's just focus on playing baseball. Like we don't, especially with the stuff from his agent saying it's not true. They can be like, cool, it's not true. Like we don't care. Like that's all outside noise. We're just gonna focus on what we can control. What are you guys gonna be looking forward to, and maybe even some potential predictions here for the Guardian series?
Yeah, basically the same thing. Just seeing how the team responds. The main thing I'm going to be looking for is the transactions. We have about 3 guys who might come off of the IL. That's Vargas, Pavin, and Gabby. Those are 3 guys who could potentially be coming off of the IL. So some guys might get DFA'd. Some guys might get sent down to Reno, whatever it is. There's going to be a lot of transactions either this week or this weekend. This week coming up, these next couple of games, or for the next one. So that's the main thing I'm looking out for, just to see how this team looks, because they might look completely different in just a couple of hours from now. So I'm very curious to see about that. Again, just in case they still don't do the transactions, Tyler, you're on the hot seat. You got to perform, because if not, then Pavin Smith is taking over that first base job easily, and Vargas can easily take on the role for a guy like what's this guy's name? Casey
Keys Kelly,
Kelly. Like
backup center.
yeah, so there's a couple guys whose jobs might be on the chopping block soon enough. But quickly, just Daniel Legan. Everybody here, remember that name if you don't know it already.
Double
Daniel
A.
Legan got sent to Double A. Don't be surprised if you see him in spring training next year, and if he even has a job on this on this team's opening day roster.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna need as many pitches as we can next year, and he's looking really good, man. He's looking
Way too
really good.
long. I was like, what? Freaking finally. He's been dominating single A so much.
Yeah, but the double A and triple A environments are a little bit more hitter friendly, so I think this will be a big test. But I'm confident that he's going to continue playing really well. Another guy that might be on a call up soon, maybe Slade Caldwell. Who knows? He's been playing pretty well. But Brandon, passing on to you here. What are some maybe some predictions? Maybe some players you're going to watch out. Like, are you agreeing with Gabe? Maybe this is going to be the final series that Locklear has to turn it around. Maybe there's some other names that you might be expecting to either go off. What are you kind of looking out for here for the series, and what are you going to be keeping an eye on?
I mean, last series I did predict, or I was thinking ADC might go off. I thought he had a pretty good series. He did have a homer against the Rockies. What I really want to see is Marte just show everybody you don't know ball, and like just goes off in this series. Has like goes like let's see, 3 games. Let's say like 5 for 12 with 3 home. Like if he does that, it's like I want to see that this is not going to affect him. Like if he has 3 really bad games, I'm be like, oh brother, this is definitely in his head. So, I mean, it's gonna be great to see another guy that's the best at his position, and that's Jose Ramirez at third base. Like he's literally the same thing. Like he is without a doubt the best guy at third base in all of Major League Baseball, in my opinion. Like so many people have been saying he's underrated for like years. I'm like, at this point, you can't say that for like 4 straight years. He's not underrated at this point. People just don't follow the Guardians, so they don't know. Like that doesn't make him underrated, in my opinion.
Future Hall of Famer,
Um,
man. He's putting up. He's already got almost the same numbers as Adrian Beltre through the same like age. Like I'm calling it
he's
future
a
Hall of Famer.
he's a switch hitter too. Like I love switch hitters because you can't really do matchups that much against them. Some of them you can. If Slade Sakoti does pitch in this series, I want this team to go off on him. Sorry, Slade. Like these last 3 days have been very, very just frustrating to watch. So we'll see.
Yeah, so it'll definitely be interesting, especially seeing who our starting pitchers are going to be. Because again, none of the names are listed. So maybe they do some rearranging of the roster. Like Gabe said, this could be an entirely different roster come tomorrow. I'll probably see one of the longest transaction sheets that we've seen for a D-backs tweet, but that'll hopefully be hitting our notifications tomorrow. But again, I appreciate all you guys tuning in here. Any other final thoughts? Maybe again, if you guys wanted to circle back one more moment on the Ketel thing, maybe one more thing on the Rockies thing, or just in general, any final thoughts from either of you gentlemen here? No?
No, good.
Don't change your tune. If you were someone that was all against Marte, I don't want to see you change your tune. Like you stick to your guns. If you think he should be traded, then don't change your mind. Oh no, all this was false. I'm all for Ketel Marte. Yeah, I bet you are because yeah.
Agree. Be the Orange County hardcore band. Stick to your guns. Great band, by the way. And don't change up. But again, we appreciate all of you guys for tuning on in here. Again, I know this is a little bit of a different format than we normally go to, but again, we don't see too many situations like this with some pretty big news mid-season that's not like a trade or anything like that. So again, we appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning on in here. I know it's been a long one. Thank you very much for sticking out here and spending the rest of your Sunday evening, or whoever, maybe you're listening to this after the fact, your Monday morning, hanging out with us. Again, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube part, or if you're on Spotify or Apple, whatever it is, leave us a rating. Whatever you feel like we're worthy, make sure you guys put that there. Also, go to our Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Follow us on every single one of those platforms. If you don't have Twitter, make sure you go to the YouTube description to click the Discord link. Again, it's free. You can just join up over there. Or if you're on Twitter, it's our pinned tweet. Go over there. Again, join it. Great community over there, especially a lot of discussions about Ketel. And as we get closer to the end of the season and even in the offseason, it's going to be the place you're going to want to be. So make sure you guys check that out. And again, azsnakepit.com. A lot of great content, daily articles, recaps. Our man Josh puts out a great written content form, kind of like recaps of the article. So if you guys want a little bit more dispatch in life, but in the written form, make sure you guys show Josh's articles some love because he does an absolute fantastic job with the recaps. One of them did get put on Yahoo News, which I thought was pretty cool. So again, AZ Snake Pit is a place to be. But in the meantime, you guys have a fantastic start to your week. We'll hopefully see you guys on Wednesday. With the better moods, maybe, who knows? I don't think we sweep the Guardians. Maybe we sweep them, and maybe we're just so back. Maybe the teams ahead of us can continue losing, and we can be right back in the thick of things. But I don't know if I want to see this bullpen in a playoff series. But I don't know. That'll be discussion for a later show. You guys have a fantastic rest of your Sunday, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.
Under the lights, the game goes down. Desert heat, but we own this town. Brennan, Gabe on the call with Josh in the back, bringing it up.